Wake up, and good morning to you. Wednesday, June 12th, Damon Bruce, Larry Krueger, with your latest and greatest on your San Francisco 49ers and a few other things happening around the world of sports. And Larry, look, it's not Niner news, but it is breaking news within this last hour. Jerry West, one of the single greatest sports lives ever lived in the United States, has passed away this morning at the age of 86 years old, a Hall of Fame player, a Hall of Fame executive. His fingerprints are all over NBA greatness. It feels a little funny to not start with the breaking news. It's kind of a big deal, man. Jerry West was the logo of the NBA, for goodness sakes. They're planning a pregame tribute ahead of Game 3 of the NBA Finals this evening.
Yeah, I mean, it's so rare that anybody's blessed with a singular thing that they're great at. This guy was a great basketball player, but then he went and became almost an equal as an executive. He's as good as an executive as there's been. He's always had an incredible eye for talent. You could argue that the Lakers had help in getting Kobe there to LA and this and that. But then, Jerry West came to the Warriors and said, you know what, let's not trade Klay Thompson for Kevin Love. And, I really think he had a huge hand in the Warriors, the Warriors dynasty, and he had an incredible eye for talent. Just watching the Jerry West, retrospectives through the years, the guy was never really happy. I mean, I don't want to, say that, he was miserable, but
he admitted that
he was a tortured, he was a tortured soul, who grew up in some dysfunction in West Virginia. He slept with a shotgun under his bed. I think there was issues in his home. But you're talking about a guy who persevered and, became, one of the faces of the NBA. I think of my father-in-law who grew up in Southern California. I mean, Jerry West, was absolutely, a hero there in the late 50s in college and in the 60s and early 70s. With the Lakers as a pro. And
his playing days were a little before our time, Larry, but you go and ask anyone older, our parents' generation, about the backcourt of Jerry West and Gail Goodrich, and they'll tell you that that's where they started falling in love with basketball, right? I mean, he was a huge part of so many successful Lakers teams that came up short. 9 NBA Finals appearances. He won 1 championship. An all-star every year of his career. 12-time All-Pro, again, 9 NBA Finals, 1 NBA championship as a player, and 2
won an MVP in the finals without winning the title. 69, He was the MVP of the finals.
Luka might do that this year, Larry. Yeah. Luka might do that this year.
Yeah, 14-time All-Star Game MVP, 10-time All-NBA first team, All-NBA defensive player 4 times over. Just an incredible player. His number 44 retired by the Lakers.
2-time Final Four participant, West Virginia.
Again, outstanding player of the Final Four.
He was named most outstanding player in a Final Four where his team lost the championship game. That was to Cal, by the way. What was that to? Who was Cal's best player back then? Anyway, I'll have to think about that.
But he was an 8-time NBA champion as an executive, 2-time executive of the year. The guy had an incredible eye for talent and just had a huge impact on the NBA. He was an incredible high school player, graduated from East Bank High School in the mid 50s. Everybody wanted him. Like there was like 50 or 60 different, schools going after him. And he decided to stay in home in West Virginia and play there in Morgantown. So, you're talking about just a great basketball player, a great shooter, Mr. Clutch, and the logo, and a guy who's just meant so much to the NBA. And I just always was so impressed by his just ability to kind of see the future. I mean, he basically got Kobe Bryant to LA and made that trade and started that whole thing going there with Kobe. I mean, obviously, what they did with Magic and Worthy and Kareem.
Yeah, dude. I mean, he built the Showtime Lakers. He hired Phil Jackson to really bring, the Kobe Shaq Lakers to the full fruition of their promise. He built the Grit and Grind Grizzlies. That was a very good, very well-run basketball operation in a small market that exceeded any and all expectations for them and as an expansion franchise. And then, one of the most important voices in Warriors history. He helped keep that dynasty together. Probably, there's a little legend as much as there is truth to it, but he being the guy that said can't trade Klay Thompson for Kevin Love. That was him and Mark Jackson basically reaching that conclusion together. And they were right. They bet right on that again. He was the NBA's consigliere. Like, he was the Hall of Famer that future Hall of Famers went to for advice. You knew you were going to get the straight truth from Jerry West. No bullshit approach to every element of his life. And the guy had universal respect. Only one of 3 players, Larry, to win a finals MVP, an NCAA tournament most outstanding player, and an Olympic gold medal. Can you name the other 2?
To win an Olympic gold medal,
gold medal, most outstanding player, Final Four, MVP, NBA. One of these is obvious. The other
Magic.
That's the obvious one. Magic Johnson. If you get this one, I'm going to roll you a joint and mail it to you.
So he was a college most outstanding player of the Final Four, MVP in the pros, and what was the other one?
And an Olympic gold.
God, what decade?
Early 80s. Center.
Early 80s center. Wait a second. Alvin Adams or something? I don't know.
Hakeem Olajuwon.
Wow.
There you go. So
that's a good one.
Yeah. Seriously, one of the all-timers. And I know it's not a 49er story. I know it's not an NFL story, but rest in peace, Jerry West. We had to begin the show with that. Call it broadcaster instincts, Larry. We just had to begin the show with that. Moving on to why everybody's here. And thank you very much for watching. Like and subscribe, Niners fans. What can we tell you? Not a lot of not a lot to get into this week that is outside of cover boy for Christian McCaffrey becoming the next Madden cover boy. It's been another week of just waiting for something to happen with Brandon Aiyuk. And the only thing that I guess has happened is the number $26 million has officially been attached to this negotiation by Mike Silver. And the debate of whether or not that's enough to get it done, should get it done. Adjusted rate of inflation, market rate, blah, 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 blah. I've seen this thing hacked apart from a million different angles. And I'm just telling you right now, I would bump this up to 28. If I'm the 49ers, I'd bump this up to 28 million. I guarantee him at least 80. And if that doesn't get the deal done, then we got to start looking at other options for real, because that's about as far as they're probably going to go. They probably gone as far as they want to go right now. And something's got to happen. This just can't linger right up until week 1 and have a real feel-good feeling around the team.
Yeah, I was thinking about this because I've been talking obviously a lot about Aiyuk and I think when Mayoko came out and said, hey, they could have him play on the 5th year option and just table the contract talks until next year. When I heard that, I thought to myself, are they having Mayoko put that out there in the ether so they can, as either a negotiating ploy or as, are they really considering telling Aiyuk, you know what? No, just play on the 5th year option at 14.1 or 14.2, and we'll deal with tomorrow, and we'll see where it goes.
I mean, the amount of good soldiering Brandon Aiyuk would have to do to put on the brave face to pretend he's happy with that. I don't know if he's got it in him. That would just be you're asking for the rest of the player.
Well, and what about the rest of the players too? How's the rest of the room going to react to that? Right. If you put him off. So that's kind of interesting. But then, I was also thinking, you know, is any one receiver, is Brandon Aiyuk the Niners' number one receiver today? Yes. But is he like, is it just absolutely hands down that he's like the number one receiver? And they have to go forward with him. He's not Jerry Rice. It's not like he's like, oh my God, this is the best receiver in all of football. And I kind of wonder if at some point it would be better for them to just pull the trigger on a trade and get down the road and let him make his big money elsewhere. He's a NorCal guy. Guys, he's went to Sierra College. He's a Rockland kid. He says he wants to be a Niner beyond this year. He's a Northern California guy. He'd rather stay in Northern California. I don't think he wants to leave, but I think he does want to get taken care of. It would be unfortunate if they can't come to some kind of an agreement, but I kind of agree with you in that I just don't think that I would pay him, especially when you're going to pay Purdy as much as you are and all the talent that you have on this roster. I don't know that I would feel comfortable paying him $30 million a year. And if it gets to that point, I gotta listen to offers. If the Chargers come calling and they're offering Ladd McConkey and Rice's kid and a pick, you know what? If you offered me right now Brendan Rice, Ladd McConkey, and a day 2 pick, I would trade Aiyuk to the Chargers, because not that I think that those receivers are better than him. I don't, but I would take the 2-for-1 and the pick in their financial situation and figure out the rest of the cap, in the aftermath of that. I know there's a lot of people be like, oh my God, how could you possibly do that? But I mean, if you got McConkey and Brendan Rice coming back, you're getting two receivers for the price of one. You're not getting the same caliber of receiver, but if you could get a day 2 pick in 2025 with those 2 young receivers, to me, that's in their current situation with as many guys as they have to pay, and with the quarterback, being paid, probably going to be paid 50 to 55 million. If the Chargers come knocking, offering those 2 receivers and a day 2 pick, I'm doing it.
4 different trade proposals offered up by Bleacher Report. We'll get into all 4 of them in a second. But the thing that we talked about Monday, Larry, was the fact that, look, we both really like Brandon Aiyuk. We think that the 49ers are going to be at their best with Brandon Aiyuk on the team. Having said that, if you had to choose, somebody's got to miss the season coming up because they were kidnapped by aliens. Who would hurt the team more? George Kittle or Brandon Aiyuk? I'm keeping Kittle. I think that, how about this?
Well, it has a lot more to do with the depth chart behind.
Right. Exactly. Yes, of course. It's how the team is currently constructed and how you're trying to go about trying to win it all this year. If Brandon Aiyuk being on this roster guaranteed Super Bowl, they would have won one by now. So it's not like you've got that happening. And I think they're a playoff team with or without him. I really do. I think they're a playoff team with or without him. And if I think that, by definition, how important can you really be? Super Bowl, I know everyone wants it promised to them. Super Bowls are not promised to anyone. You want to start as just, are you a playoff team? Yes or no? I think the 49ers are going to be a playoff team.
The margins are so slim in the NFL, though. It's the difference between winning and losing is small. Yep. I hear what you're saying, though. I basically agree that they're a title contender, and they're a for sure playoff team and still a title contender without him. They haven't gotten it done with him. I don't blame him for them not getting it done, but I mean, right. Those are the facts.
Right. He's not any element of their failure.
It's not like he dropped some game-winning touchdown or something like that. He hasn't, he's played fine.
Christian McCaffrey's made more Super Bowl mistakes than he has. How about that? There you go.
And so is Kyle Shanahan. So, but I mean, ultimately, it's, and I looked at those trades and we can go into them, but, it's not Jerry Rice. I mean, he's not Randy Moss. He's not Terrell Owens. He's a very good receiver, who's now playing in an era where receivers are just paid at a ridiculous rate, despite the fact there's an abundance of them. So that's why you're seeing the volatility in the receiver market, because the price tag for the receiver market is skyrocketed, but the supply and demand theory, holds steady, which is there's actually more supply than there is quarterbacks. So there's like this incredible demand for quarterbacks, and quarterbacks always are overpaid. There's this incredible demand for wide receivers, and they're overpaid. But now there's so many wide receivers in every draft class, and there's so many wide receivers seeming like in every free agent class, that doesn't make sense.
Isn't this the same riddle that the running
Pay
back
wide
room in the
receiver
NFL
that
fell
much?
into? I mean, this it's kind of what's happened at running back is now happening at wide receiver, but the choice to not pay running backs an elite salary was made by the league. They haven't made that choice with wide receivers yet, but the pendulum will swing back. We all know that markets ebb and flow and bubbles burst. So you figure what CeeDee Lamb's about to sign for what, 33, 34. Jamar Chase is going to be right there. I don't know if either of the guys who still needs to sign is going to, go north of the Justin Jefferson deal. So that means everyone needs to fall in line behind. Brandon Aiyuk and the $28-29 million contract that he would agree to right now sounds like an overpay right now. 3-4 years from now might be just standard. That's what every number one WR1 on every roster is, in that 28 to 31 million range. So there is the element of overpay. There's also the element of just, this is the cost of doing normal new business in football. So the Niners need to thread that needle. And then are they threading it with the right guy? Because if you do extend yourself into that $28-29 million range, the guy that you do that with has to be the man. And Brandon Aiyuk, I don't know if he is the NFL's the man. He's the 49ers the man. But do they have another man to fill the role of the man if all of a sudden he weren't here? And the answer to that question right now is a softly offered maybe. We don't know.
Well, they've got some good receivers. They've got some good receivers
that they like, but again, it's all maybe. Nothing's proven. Ricky Pearsall hasn't had not one NFL lick put on him, not yet. So we don't know anything about him. Looks great in shorts, means nothing to the upcoming season. But I like him. We all do. So where are the Niners? What do they believe? What money do they have? How far are they willing to go? And if they're not willing to go as far as Brandon Aiyuk wants them to go, they need to reach that conclusion quickly and I think handle their business now. I mean, I wouldn't.
Well, when Aiyuk's people came out after the combine, it was, Ian Rappaport had the report coming out of the combine that Aiyuk's people wanted to wait until all the wide receivers had signed and the whole market had settled before he signed. It essentially, when they made that statement and as their plan, they basically said, hey, 49ers, we're putting our negotiations in the market and we're going to gamble on ourselves. And the Niners at that point should have realized that, they've now officially lost control over the ask, right? Because it's like, oh, we're going to wait until Jefferson signs. We're going to wait till the market clarifies itself. Okay. Now Jefferson is signed, and he signed for $35 million. And we know he's not better than Jefferson. So, we have a top. It's not like there's an endless amount of money that he's going to want. He's not going to want more than 35 a year because he's just not entitled to that. Now, then the question is, well, what is he entitled to? Is he, what is his market? Is his market 32? Is his market 30? Is his market 28? Is his market 26? As Mike Silver has reported, the Niners are offering $26 million. These numbers sound very, very close, but there's a dramatic difference between paying a guy $32 million and $26 million in a cap sport. Especially when you're up
money. That's all I would care about. What's the guaranteed money? Everything else here is just to fluff the agent's ego. Yeah. What's the guaranteed dollars? If I were Brandon Aiyuk, I wouldn't have a single question that was beyond that. What is my guarantee? That's it.
Right. But I mean, the question is, is this the receiver that you want to, I mean, there are people that feel that Brandon Aiyuk, after he gets paid, might suddenly not be worth it because, suddenly he takes the money and it just kind of regresses. What are you
getting any reason to believe that? I mean, you could say that about anybody. I mean, they'll get paid, they'll get lazy, as what Marvin Hagler famously said. It's hard to do your road work when you're sleeping in 10,000 thread count sheets. I get that. But Brandon Aiyuk is a straight up on the field dog. I've never seen him take a play off. I've never seen him take a route off. I've never seen him take a running play off where he isn't blocking his dick off downfield. Like, there's nothing about Brandon Aiyuk's on-field character or professionalism that I've ever questioned. So I'm not going to start now.
No, it's not about questioning professionalism. It's just a matter of, do you take a breath? Do you relax? Do you, settle into a certain production level? Heck, there was no indications that Chase Young or Kevin Givens didn't go hard until the NFC Championship game, and then all of a sudden we had a huge taste of it. So I'm just saying, it's football, and there's massive injuries, and to me, it's more about depth. I'd choose depth over the one player almost every time. I mean, there's Jerry Rice, there's Joe Montana, there's Chris Jones, there's Patrick Mahomes. There's guys who are the one of one, the individuals, Earl Campbell, Walter Payton. I mean, there are the incredible players. But for the most part, everybody else, I would just take numbers over, I would take depth over the one guy. And this is a situation where Chargers have a Super Bowl contender, but they don't have a receiver. They said goodbye to Keenan Allen. They said goodbye to Mike Williams. They don't really have a receiver. They're going with Ladd McConkey, in the second round out of Georgia. Well, if Harbaugh wants Aiyuk and they're willing to, throw McConkey and Rice's kid into the deal and maybe a pick, I think if I'm the 49ers, I would take that deal and get down the road and just build around what you got. And now instead of having, you lose a little dynamic. You lose some blocking and you lose a dynamic playmaker in Aiyuk, but you also gain a tremendous hands receiver in McConkey, a nice receiver prospect in Rice's kid. You have great depth at wide receiver.
I don't think I'm interested in two rookies just based on Shanahan's history. And I don't think he'd be interested in two rookies either.
Well, it depends, though. It depends how what's a rookie. I mean, Jerry Rice. I mean, Randy Moss was a tremendous rookie. So, I mean, I hear what you're saying, but I mean, McConkey, they're in a situation right now where the Niners are, people talk about, well, the Niners are not in an ideal position right now. They have a loaded roster. They have a quarterback that makes $900,000 that they're going to be paying $55 million to. And everybody in the world knows they're hugged up against the cap. So, the idea of some dream scenario trade where you get true equal value and everything's perfect, I don't know. There's going to have to be a little bit of a compromise there. I agree with you generally, but in this particular case, if I could get those receivers and a day 2 pick, I would do it.
Bleacher Report offered up 4 trades that if indeed 49ers Aiyuk are at a impasse, what should the Niners maybe do? Let me run these 4 trades by you. They're all for Brandon Aiyuk straight up. No Niner picks or any other elements of Niner attributes going to the other team. Steelers. 49ers would receive a 2025 first-round pick and tight end Darnell Washington.
I mean, I like that from the standpoint of I like the fact that they're getting the first-round pick and the Niners could use Washington. My only question is, what is Washington? I know he's a strong inline blocker. I know he's 6'7", 265, but is he a big stiff? I mean, he hasn't been able to unseat Freiermuth. He's their number 2 tight end, but you are getting a future number 1 from a team that, who knows, they could be picking 15, 16, 17 like they were this year. So it could be a mid-first round pick and a blocking tight end to replace Charlie Warner. Seems a little on the low side, to be honest. I know. And here's the other thing, too. Forget, they couldn't get a pick this year. That's a totally different scenario. This year, there is no deferred gratification. If you're trading for a draft pick right now, the team that's getting Aiyuk is getting the instant gratification, and the team that's getting the pick is getting deferred gratification. And any time you get, you give me $100 today, and I say I'll pay you back. There's this thing called interest. So, that's the only thing. It's like, you're going to get more in draft picks when you're taking draft picks in next year's draft than you are on draft day this year, just because you're not going to be able to realize your payout for another year, and you should be getting paid extra for the deferred gratification. You're trading, in this case, you're a star receiver inside your Super Bowl window. So you're going to have to be taken care of handsomely on the back end. Otherwise, there's no motivation to do it.
The Chargers were brought up by the Bleacher Report. Wasn't the trade that you were talking about that I do feel kind of comes out of La La Land. This one sort of sounds like La La Land to me too. 49ers get Joey Bosa and a 2025 second rounder for the Chargers, from the Chargers, for Brandon Aiyuk. I think I'd actually be more interested in that than the proposal that you came up with. Because
you're going with a known name.
I like the wide receiver depth of the 49ers kind of where it is. So adding a couple more unproven rookies doesn't sound nearly as interesting to me as, okay, so Joey Bosa's in the room and a 2025 second rounder. Interesting.
I don't love that trade because of the injuries of Joey Bosa and the cost of Joey Bosa. I mean, why are the Niners moving Aiyuk at all? It's because they can't afford him. So why are you going to turn around and trade him for another player that cost a ton of cash, who just redid his deal and is on the wrong side of 30 and has had tons of injuries? I know that one looks good on paper, but you already have Bosa, you already have Leonard Floyd. Now you're going to add Joey Bosa. That's an awful lot in defensive ends, and you're not necessarily any better on the cap situation. I guess if I was doing that, first of all, I just wouldn't want Joey Bosa. I just wouldn't want Joey Bosa because of the injuries and what he costs at this point.
Fair enough. Jets, you want to talk about a real delayed gratification trade here. Brandon Aiyuk to the New York Jets for a 2025 first rounder and a 2025 second rounder. Brandon Aiyuk for the first two picks of the next Jets draft. Yes or no?
Well, this is high risk, high reward, because the reality is that Rodgers is 40 and the Jets are lousy, and the Jets have been lousy for a long time. Now, are they going to be lousy this year? I don't know. But this potentially on that MetLife turf, if Rodgers went down, the backup quarterback for the Jets is Tyrod Taylor. So, if
top 10 picks.
Yeah, I mean, you could wind up trading Aiyuk for what amounts to the 8th pick in the draft and like the 42nd pick in the draft, and then you could have 3 picks inside the top 42, and now all of a sudden you've got something really going. But this one is the hardest one to make, because you're going to have to look Trent Williams and all your veterans in the eye and say, by the way, in the midst of us going for it inside of our Super Bowl window, we're trading our number one receiver, and the assets we're getting back, we're not going to realize until April of 2025, when Trent may or may not even have any more football left in him. So I don't know about that. If I could change that deal around, Damon, and say, okay, a first and a 1 and a 2 next year, that's fine, but that's a little too much deferred gratification. Instead, I'll take Malachi Corley and your first round pick next year. Now I would do it, because they do have Malachi Corley, they do have Garrett Wilson, and they've already signed Mike Williams away from the Chargers. They also have Alan Lazard. They've got other receivers. If the Jets somehow got Aiyuk, they probably don't need Malachi Corley. And, you could, if I could get Malachi Corley in a first round pick, I think I would do that. And then at least you could look your fans in the eye and say, yeah, we made a trade for Aiyuk, but it's, and we did some deferred gratification by getting a future number one, but we're also got a player that we can utilize this year in Malachi Corley. So that I would move that deal around from a 1 and a 2 to Corley. And realistically, if the Jets traded for Aiyuk, now they'd have Aiyuk, Garrett Wilson, Mike Williams. They don't even need Malachi Corley at that point. They would probably be willing to throw him to you. So my guess is I would make that deal if I could get a first in Malachi Corley, but a 1 and a 2, no, because then you're going to have to look Trent in the eye and say, in the midst of your, our go for it year, we just got rid of a player for we're not improving our roster 1 iota off this trade until next April. That's a tough sell.
Final proposed trade. Again, this is by Bleacher Report. And look, just to see some of the discourse that's going on in the chat right now. Hey, if Larry
like, thank goodness Larry isn't our GM.
Well, look,
go ahead, Callie. It's easy to rip my trades and rip my comments. Go ahead and make your own, and we'll evaluate yours.
Well, and look, we're discussing the unknown here, and we're throwing ideas out that neither one of us want. I think both of us would want to see Brandon Aiyuk on this team. But if that were not to happen, what is the escape hatch? We're just looking at escape pods and escape hatches over here. Final one with the Packers, according to Bleacher Report. 49ers get wide receiver Christian Watson, who's a big guy. He's like 6'4", really big frame. And a 2025 second-round pick. Again, a little instant gratification and delayed gratification with the trade right there. But again, you're trading Brandon Aiyuk to a team that you might end up meeting in the postseason this year.
Yeah, I mean, come on, man. You're talking about the Jets, the Steelers, the Chargers, and the Packers. Which team do you not want to send Aiyuk to? The Packers.
Yeah.
You don't want to send him to the Packers. This is the Charles Haley trade all over again. You're giving a team that you're competing with a great player at a position of need, and now you're going to try to beat them. Now, okay, so let's talk about this. To me, if Green Bay came knocking, and I don't even know that Green Bay would come knocking for Aiyuk, to be honest. I mean, they've got a good bevy of young receivers that make nothing. Why would you want to add some super expensive receiver who's only maybe nominally better than some of these guys potentially down the road? So I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure Green Bay would even be interested in this. But if this were Green Bay and they wanted Aiyuk, there's a premium, man. You are paying a premium because you're Green Bay. If I'm sending him to Green Bay, the price for Green Bay is more than the price for the Jets, the Steelers, the Chargers, or anybody in the AFC. So if they really badly want Aiyuk, I would trade them Aiyuk. But I want a receiver. Doesn't have to be Christian Watson. It could be Romeo Doubs. It could be Jaden Reed. I want a receiver coming back, and I want a first. I want a first-round draft choice and a receiver coming back. Otherwise, there's no way. There's no way in the world the 49ers ought to give Green Bay. Think about what Green Bay's got. They got a great young quarterback. They got a really good young offensive line. They just signed Josh Jacobs. They've got Luke Musgrave and Tucker Kraft at tight end. They got a bevy of good young receivers. Well, what they don't have is they don't have a true number one receiver. Well, so now you're giving them a true number one receiver and making them incredible on offense.
But again,
you've got to make sure that you're getting some good.
But I guess, Larry,
good players back.
Is Brandon Aiyuk that true number one receiver? And if he is,
he would be on their team.
Million.
Well, no, but I mean, he's a number one receiver. Doesn't mean he's the number one receiver in all of football, but he is a number one receiver. Joey Nichols says Dobbs is good. Watson is good. When healthy, Bo Melton adds a nice element. I mean, yeah, the Packers have a bunch of good receivers. Wicks is good. Dobbs is good. Watson's good. Reed's good. Melton's good. I mean, they got a bunch of receivers. Both those tight ends are tremendous. I think, once again, if I'm giving you a number one receiver, and now I'm taking the number one receiver off of the team that beat you in the playoffs. So now it's like you're getting a clear step up on the team that you played in the playoffs. I gotta, it's got to be beneficial to me. So, I mean, I either got to get, two of those receivers in a day two pick, or I need one of those receivers of my choice and a day one pick. But I'm not doing it for Christian Watson, who, has had some good days. He's had some bad days. He's big, he's strong, he's fast, he's got potential. But he's not the complete receiver that Aiyuk is right now. Aiyuk is better than Christian Watson, for sure. So if I could get Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs and a third, I would do it. If I could get Christian Watson and Jaden Reed and a second, something like that, I would do it. But I'm not.
Well, those are trades.
I have to win the trade. If I'm giving you a great receiver in his prime, inside my Super Bowl window, it's got to make a lot of sense. I mean, there's so many more reasons to trade Aiyuk to the AFC than there is to trade him to the Packers. Trading him to the Packers represents real risk, and that's fine. I don't mind taking real risk, but there has to be real gain. Real gain. Dobbs and Watson in a second, Dobbs and Watson in a third. Now there's real gain. Now I'm getting 2 receivers and a day two pick, and I've alleviated my cap issue. Yeah, I mean, now I'm interested. Depth.
At what point?
I like the idea of depth.
At what point does Parag, Kyle, call Brandon Aiyuk's representatives and just say, look, so here's the deal. The final offer, $28.5 million, 77 to 80 million guaranteed. Like we have on paper for you, Brandon, generational wealth. Generational wealth is what we're offering you right here and right now. This is our final offer. Or you're playing at 14 million and you're accruing fines if you don't. And that's it. Those are the only 2. We are not trading you. You are going to be a 49er, whether you want to be or not. So do you want to be paid like this, or do you want to be screwed like this? And that's the offer. The offer is you're a 49er no matter what. Do you want to come in at a price point that you think is undervalued to you, but it's a lot more than 14 million? Or do you want to come back with 14 million and no guarantee that your ACL is not going to be shredded? At what point do the 49ers get that tough?
It's hard to say. It's hard to say. I don't know. I mean, this is a hard negotiation for sure. Mr. Irrelevant MC says BA was talking about Vegas too. Send him to the Raiders. For what? What, Devontae Adams? You send him to the Raiders for one of those 2 tight ends, Brock Bowers or Michael Mayer or something like that. I don't know. I mean, why don't you send him to the Raiders for Max Crosby? Why don't you do that? I mean, come on. Well, I mean, they do have 2 tight ends, and Brock Bowers is from Napa. Michael Mayer's a pretty good prospect. I'd take, let's just say you can't get a deal done with Aiyuk and you're not willing to go to, let's say maybe, who knows, maybe he wants to be at 34 million. He wants to be right under a Jefferson. And what happens if the Niners are like, no, we've budgeted for 23. We'll go to 26 or 27, but we're not going to 34. Then you've got an impasse. And if you got an impasse, I think you got to look around. But I would be, man, I'm okay. It's, once again, I'm okay with moving players. Even players as good as Brandon Aiyuk, in the Super Bowl window. But I got to get something good coming back. If it's the Raiders, I'd like to have one of those tight ends in a day 2 pick. If you're willing to trade me Michael Mayer in a 2nd round pick, maybe I'll do it. If you're willing to give me Brock Bowers in a 3rd round pick, and maybe I would do it. Like and subscribe, 49ers fans, to both channels. Thank you very, very much. Damon Bruce Plus, The Krueger Show. It's good to have you here. Who is having a better offseason, honestly, than Christian McCaffrey? Someone's having a great summer. You're the reigning offensive player of the year, coming off a 2,000 yards from scrimmage season with 21 touchdowns. You made a Super Bowl appearance. You just signed a 2-year, $38 million extension last week. You also celebrated a birthday last week. This week, you found out that you're the cover boy of Madden, the first 49er to ever grace the cover of Madden domestically. Apparently, Garrison Hurst was on some international copy of the game a long time ago. And you're getting married in a few weeks to a former Miss Universe. Not bad. Oh, and you got abs too. Like the both of you in swimming suits, you and your soon-to-be wife are arguably one of the most in shape, best looking couples in the world. If you decide to have kids, your kid is going to be smart enough to go to Stanford or attractive enough to possibly be named a future Miss Universe. Like, where can I go to buy future stock in McCaffrey, Olivia Culpo offspring? I mean, who's having a better summer than this guy, Larry? Wow. And you could even name his girl. That's good knowledge. All I would say is no. The Madden curse is well known. I mean, you could type in Madden in Google and the next word that comes up is curse. but again, it hasn't been as much of a curse in the last decade as it was earlier, but go look at the go look at how many guys either got hurt or had bad years or, things went south after they were on the cover of that game.
Well, it's really nice that this year's excuse for not winning the Super Bowl is just baked right into the beginning of the year. So that's nice that Team Madden did that for us.
Well, I mean, and I understand partially why there is a curse. I mean, and when I say a curse, why this is played like a curse, because, who gets on the cover of Madden? Guys who have done it in the past. Well, guys who've done it in the past, by definition, have a little mileage on them. And who gets hurt? Guys who touch the ball, who have a lot of mileage, seemingly are the guys who get hurt. So it's not totally shocking that a lot of these guys have gotten hurt. Christian was asked about it. He's like, I'm not worried. I don't believe in curses. Albert Soto here says, Larry, look, Larry, curses are meant to be broken. There you go.
Hey, if the Cubs can break the Billy Goat curse, then any curse can be broken. There is no doubt.
We got this one from Robert Prado. The San Francisco Giants have a curse on them.
No, they just got Farhan.
Yeah, it's not a curse. It's called Farhanxiety. It's an affliction, kind of like gout. Do you have Farhanxiety? Yes, I do, but I'm taking a pill for it every day.
It's not a bug. It's a feature.
It's Farhan. He's not an illness. He's an affliction. There you go.
First 49er to be selected as a cover athlete. Again, given the greatness of the Niners, that's kind of hard to believe. McCaffrey's the first running back to be on the cover since Peterson and Barry Sanders shared the cover in 2013. First non-quarterback since Antonio Brown in 2018. Again, not too long after Adrian Peterson was named the Madden cover boy. He beat his son with a switch. Antonio Brown has he's a walking testament to CTE and bad behavior at this point in his life.
Something told me Adrian Peterson probably beat his kid with a switch before being on the cover of Madden.
Yeah, it's really not something you just decide to pick up one day. It's either in you or not in you.
But there's a bunch of Michael Vick and others who they had great, momentum going in their career, and suddenly, things got halted after being on the cover of the video game. I don't know if I believe in the curses, but good for CMC. I did think it was interesting last week when I asked Shanahan, I said he had 339 touches last year. What'd you think of that usage? And will that number go up or down? And he said, well, touches are a hard thing to evaluate because you could try to go deep 6 times and check it down 6 times. And now you got 6 touches for your running back that none of them were intended for the running back. But he then admitted that while his touches may be up or down, who knows, based on how things go, the Niners are going to try to hand him the ball less frequently than they have in the past. So get ready for more Mason, more Garendo, more Cody Schrader, more, Mitchell, who knows, more Debo, more anybody. But it sounds like they're going to try to drop. I think he had like 270 carries. I think they're going to try to bring that number down.
They should. They absolutely should. So, look, he's special. I get why coaches become addicted to him and want to keep on using him. He's a player you want out there. He's a player you want around the ball. But, a little load management for Christian McCaffrey, especially with this new contract that he's just agreed to, is the right way to go about this season and ensuring that he's around to really help you in further seasons. So, yeah.
Would you take him number 1 in the fantasy draft at running back?
At running back, certainly. Number 1 overall.
Well, the running backs typically go first.
Yeah.
Would you take McCaffrey first overall in the fantasy draft? I don't know. I don't think I would. I'd be concerned about injury. I'd be concerned about the Niners spreading the ball around a little bit.
How about this? If you don't take him number 1, what does he fall to 2? So I mean,
yeah, he's a top 5 guy for sure.
Yeah, he's the top of the draft for sure. Did you see the other story? It's funny. I was looking up just, McCaffrey, his life. The best story that I saw about Christian McCaffrey and Olivia Culpo, they've been dating since 2019. They're about to be married. Again, if you Google both of them, you've seen them, on white sandy beaches and in thatched Tahiti huts. Like they've already gone on extraordinary vacations. And I'm guessing, look, there's a lot of pictures of her being at football games, since Carolina days, right? I mean, she has been to an awful lot of his football games. I'm sure, enjoyed an awful lot of really nice luxury boxes in her time going to Christian McCaffrey's football games. And for the Super Bowl, she wanted to get one of the suites at Allegiant Stadium. And she makes an awful good living too. She's a world-class model. She's former Miss Universe. She's made millions herself. So she's got her money, he's got his money, but together it's their money. And when she said, honey, I want to spend $2 million on a Super Bowl suite, Christian McCaffrey was like, no, don't do that. We'll just get you tickets. You're going to sit in the stadium like a normal, and we're not spending $2 million just for you to go to 5 hours of a football game, which no guaranteed you're going to be going home happy. I mean, imagine you spent $2 million to watch your husband fumble away a chance to win a Super Bowl in the very first drive of the game. That would not be good. There's a certain price point where I think you back away from anything that's only going to last 4 or 5 hours. I could be a multi-billionaire. I wouldn't want a $2 million Super Bowl suite. So there you go. Christian McCaffrey saying, honey, I support you. I love you. No Super Bowl suite. Sounds like a conversation Jillian and I would have had should we have been in a similar situation. Honey, yeah. I get you want to have a good time with your friends here. I'd love to do it for you. No on the $2 million suite.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, they always say that the worst thing you could do is start spending money at your highest rate of earning. You know what I mean? And that would probably be irresponsible, considering most football players, not all, but most football players have to have some kind of second career.
Some of the best advice I ever got growing up was from a friend of mine. His dad was a very, very successful lawyer. They had, of all my friends, they lived in the nicest neighborhood in one of their nicest houses. They had other properties. They bought camps. They invested in a hotel up in Lake George. Very successful family. And we were all in the backyard one night, and Rich Piedmont, the guy's name, said, boys, I want to give you advice. He was the adult standing in a semicircle of 14-year-olds around a fire pit. He said, boys, I want to give you some advice. Find your means. Find your level. Live one notch below it. If you can afford a $1 million house, buy a $750,000 house. If you can afford an $80,000 car, buy a $64,000 car. Just one notch. Always go one notch below your means, and you'll be okay your entire life. That was great advice. I think of it all the time. With every extravagant, not that we have a lot of extravagant purchases, especially lately, but with every big vacation I've ever planned, with everything I've ever done, I've always gone back to that moment around the fire pit here in Rich Piedmont. Tell me, find your level, live one notch below it.
So in other words, you said my level's the win. The Niners are in the Super Bowl. Let me stay at the Strata.
We're going to the Strat.
We're going to the Strat. I want to be on the dangerous side of the strip. I want to, if I have to get something out of my car in the middle of the night, I want it to be kind of a 50-50 proposition.
I want to be worried about it. I want to be worried. I want to
be looking over my shoulder as I'm walking outside the hotel.
Every single time Larry and Kevin leave the hotel room, there's a part of me that wants to wonder, will they be back?
Will they ever make it back?
I think that's good advice, though, right?
Well, I mean, living beyond your means is reckless. So living within your means, I mean, that's living within your means. I kind of like that.
Yeah, that's really good advice.
Let's be honest. How many times people who say, "Oh, you know what? I just had to go do this for myself," those are usually stupid decisions. Oh, I had to. I really wanted to baby myself, so.
There are three pieces. There are honestly, like, Damon, what did you learn in your teenage years? There's 4 things that have stayed with me from my teenage years. The live below your means advice. I remember my grandmother probably did more to get me laid in my life with the following piece of advice than anything else. My grandmother told me when I was a very young man, she would say, Damon, don't ever be afraid to go talk to the prettiest girl in the room, because she's probably lonely. That worked for me. I was never hesitant. Again, my problem wasn't opening the game. It was closing. I would have 7.5 to 7 2/3 really good innings, and then I'd blow it later on in the game. But I was never afraid to make that introduction. My grandfather gave me great advice when he said, Damon, always be the first person to extend your hand and offer a greeting.
I had a guy in my fraternity in college who's like, hey, always go for the hottest chick because the ugliest chick's a pain in the ass as well.
That's another way to look at it. Sure, that's good. Either way, you got a lot of time to invest. You might as well invest in a
go for the hottest chick in the room because the ugliest chick could be a pain in the ass as well.
That's good advice. But again,
that's somebody who's been there.
There is something to that. The prettiest girl in the room might be the loneliest girl in the room because every other guy's intimidated by your looks. So don't you be intimidated. Always introduce yourself, live below your means. And then I remember, and this is why I wear my seatbelt, Larry. How many safe things do I do in life? Not many, but I always wear my seatbelt. And it's because I remember there was a cop who came in during like traffic school when I was getting my driver's license. And he said one thing that I think of every single fucking time I buckle my seatbelt. He said, I have worked New York Highway Patrol for 30 years. I've responded to every single conceivable type of accident that has ever happened on a highway. And I'll tell you all right now that I have never unbuckled a dead person from a car. So I get dead people out of cars all the time. I've never unbuckled a dead person from a car.
That's interesting.
That makes me wear my seatbelt all the time. I put on my seatbelt before I start the car.
Sometimes you'll see these accidents on social media where there's like a car, let's say, in the left lane, just driving safely in the left lane on the freeway, and some car drifts into them, and somehow the wheels get going, and all of a sudden that car that they bumped into is rolling. I saw one where this car was in the far left lane the other day, and a car kind of rubbed their tires up against the tires of the car in the left lane. The car in the left lane just started to roll across the freeway and then rolled over a bridge and fell over the bridge and dropped, another 100 feet or whatever to the ground. It was like, and the person who was in the driver in the far left lane who was doing nothing, that basically had this all happen to them. They did nothing. They were just happened to be driving in the far left lane. So yeah, absolutely. Wear your seatbelt.
Wear your seatbelt. Robert Prado saying, seatbelt saved my life. Again, yeah, seatbelt saves lives. Look, Al Philippe says the strat with Larry and Kev, but you eat at the steakhouse at Wynn.
There you go.
We're not animals.
Yeah, that was great. That was a great dinner.
It was.
By the way, I also am only here because of a seatbelt.
Really?
So I was driving in college to Vegas, right? Driving to Vegas, stopping at an ex-girlfriend's place in LA with a couple of my buddies. And it's a rainstorm. We're coming down the Grapevine from, wherever, Bishop, Gorman, whatever, wherever that place is that drops you down into North LA. And then you're suddenly into Glendale. Anyway, we're coming down the Grapevine. It's like 1:00 in the morning. And it's just raining cats and dogs. And I can see there's waves just going straight down the freeway. But the freeway drifts to the left and the waves are going straight. And I saw it like about 50 yards ahead in my headlights. And I'm like, oh, my God. So I two hands on the wheel. As soon as we hit the patch where we had to go with the road, even though the water was going straight, the wheel jerks, and now we're hydroplaning.
That's scary.
Hydroplaning going 65 miles an hour on the Grapevine. We're being led by the driver's side door or by the passenger side door. That's like the front of the car. We're moving with the driver's side door as the front, and we're all pointing to the left. And I remembered right then, a buddy of mine told me, if you ever spin out, turn into it.
Yep.
Don't turn away from it. If you turn away from it, you potentially can roll. If you turn into it, you'll spin. So sure enough, I turn into it, right? And now we're spinning wildly. We wind up stopping. We're in the fast lane facing the wrong direction. Stopped on the Grapevine, which is like a 6-lane freeway in Southern California. But it's 1:00 in the morning, right? So I say to my two buddies, I'm like, "You guys okay?" And they're like, "Yeah, we're fine." And so my one of my buddies goes, "Krug, pull over. You're in the fast lane." So we pull over quickly into the shoulder, but we're still facing the wrong way. We're in the shoulder of the road, facing cars coming down the freeway. And we're not there, Damon, for more than 15 seconds. And I undid my seatbelt because I thought I popped the tires. And I opened the door and I peeked out to look at the tires. And all of a sudden, from about 500 yards away, you can see another car. It was a Mustang 5.0. And it hit the same spot and is now spinning as well. But because it's a 5.0, they're super heavy in the front and light in the back. So instead of spinning evenly, it's spinning like a washing machine, out off tilt. So it's like boom, boom, boom. And so I quickly jumped back, closed the car door, attached my seatbelt. We all held on, and this thing came at us at 65 miles an hour head on. And crushed the car, totaled the car. And only because I had the seatbelt on was I saved. Because, I had two hands on the wheel. Really,
I thought you were going to tell me that you all got out of the car and ran away from it. You were still in the car when you got plowed.
In the car, we got plowed head on at 65 miles an hour and totaled the car. And then, so obviously we got out of the car. Now we run to the other side of the freeway. And we look up the freeway, and there's like 9 cars that have all hit this same spot that all had spun out, and we're all in different spots on the freeway. And, the cops came, the tow truck came, the car was totaled. Luckily, the guy had insurance. And,
Only important follow-up question. Did you make it to Vegas?
No, we never made it to Vegas.
No, that sucks.
Never made it to Vegas. Turned around the next day, rented another car, went back to SAC.
Well, good thing you're here, Larry. Good thing you are here. Let's see. Final thing that I got for you
There
today.
would be no Krug show had there not been a seatbelt.
Thank goodness.
Think about that for a second. Chew on that, ladies and gentlemen. All right.
It's funny. Robert,
wear your seatbelt.
The 11th house says, can we talk about something serious like Joey Chestnut choosing fake meat over Nathan's?
I saw that. Joey Chestnut's not going to be part of the Nathan's hot dog eating contest because he's got a contract with another food provider. Who needs who more? Do the Niners need Aiyuk more? Does Aiyuk need the Niners more? Does Chestnut need Nathan's more, or does Nathan's need Chestnut more?
This is more offensive than Caitlin Clark being left off the U.S. women's Olympic team, as far as I'm concerned, because this guy is the Michael Jordan of eating hot dogs. And you should not have a hot dog eating contest where your 18-time defending champion is eliminated because he's making money on the side. That, how about this? Did Nathan's counter the offer? Now, the whole vegan hot dog thing, that's so stupid to me. If you were a vegetarian, why would you want anything in hot dog form? Shouldn't a hot dog be the single most repulsive element of food delivery? If you are vegan, shouldn't that turn you why would you even want something that resembled a hot dog if you're vegetarian? I don't get that at all. But okay, unless Nathan's given him a contract, Larry, make your money. Make your money. This man is experiencing the free market and demand that Nathan Had the opportunity to give them. By the way, you should get a Hebrew National anyways. It's superior hot dog. And then the Vienna beef. Nathan's really is the third draft pick of any hot dog draft, if you know what you're doing.
I don't mind a Nathan's, actually. I kind of like a Nathan's. It's not it's a it's a little saltier.
The Vienna
feels
beef.
a little old school. The casing seems to be a little thicker if you barbecue it. There's no question. It doesn't go down easy, but he's not eating them barbecued, of course. He's eating them boiled.
Right. You want to know
he just literally, shoving him down his first.
The worst.
I would not want to sit in the first row, by the way, of that.
No.
Have you ever seen these people yak? Why would you want to sit in the first row of something where people yak?
I can't watch it. I can't
It is vile.
I don't watch it. It's gross. After they do the introductions, which are funny, I turn it off. I don't want to see anything.
What could you, if you had to enter an eating contest of any kind? What food could you eat in such mass that you potentially could be competitive? You could be a competitive eater.
Street tacos.
Street tacos. How many do you think you could polish?
I was asked, okay, so you get $1 million for every.
Talking about minimalist tacos, no rice, no beans.
Right? Yeah, meat, onion, cilantro, little hot sauce, and a tiny little tortilla. Street tacos.
How many? 20?
Easy.
Yeah, I would say I could probably power down about 50 prawns with cocktail sauce. Have you ever been to like a wedding where they or a buffet where there's like this gigantic mound of prawns with cocktail sauce?
Cocktail. I'm down with shrimp cocktail.
I could probably polish off 20 to 25, maybe 40, maybe 50 if you gave me a proper time. There's something about the shrimp and the cocktail sauce. I can just, I can power those down.
You ever been to St. Elmo's in Indianapolis and try their cocktail sauce?
No. Is it spicy? I like a little horseradish in my cocktail sauce.
It's not a little horseradish. If you're serving landlocked shrimp in Indianapolis, you're not going to have the best shrimp all the time. So you better have a cocktail sauce that people talk about, and it'll singe your nose hairs off. It's really good, but it's like devilishly spicy. It's good. It's famous for it.
If you're having a barbecue,
wings. I can crush wings too. I can go.
Wings are good. Wings. Yeah.
Infinity
what
wings.
I did the other day that was just phenomenal on the barbecue? I would just recommend it very highly. I did the tomahawk ribeye.
Oh yeah.
With the bone in, and the bone is just like about a foot long.
It's a handle. Makes easy flipping.
Exactly. It's a handle. You flip it over and you just get that thing seasoned. My kids, I didn't, normally we do tri-tip, we do, sirloin, sirloin, whatever it's called. But we do different kinds of cuts, but we don't usually go with the ribeye that often. And we hardly ever go with the country bone-in ribeye.
Tomahawk.
But I decided the other day to go country bone-in ribeye. And the noise around the table when my senior in high school and my 8th grader started eating this steak, it was like, oh, Dad, that's good. I'm like, yeah. The bone-in ribeye it's hard to beat the tomahawk.
Yeah, at $28.50 a pound, it better be good, right? So.
Someone said skirt steak.
Oh, I'm a huge skirt steak guy. Skirt steak is
you got to chop it up.
Well, you got to cook it right. You got to cut it right, and it takes a marinade.
Is skirt the same as flank or different?
It's the same. It's the same neighborhood, but it is different. It's a fattier cut than the flank.
Okay, so the flank I don't mind diced up like in tacos.
The flank makes great taco meat. Yeah,
but it's a little chewy.
I feel like, but here's the thing. I like a toothiness to my steak. I don't like fillets. I want to chew it. When we
ate at the Win with your friend, what was his name? Stefan, who was a character.
Yes, he is.
When we ate at the Win and he picked up the bill and he changed his chair 3 times, I believe, in that dinner.
He's what waiters and waitresses refer to as a handful.
Right. What was your steak of choice that night?
Ribeye.
You went ribeye.
Okay. Ribeye, because I knew Steph was picking up the tab. So ribeye. Yeah.
I went ribeye as well. Kev, I think, went filet. I think Kev went filet that night.
Hey, if whatever floats your boat. I'm into flavor and marbling. If you're into texture, go filet.
Look at you. You're into marbling?
I'm into marbling, Larry.
I never knew that.
I'm into marbling.
If I'm there when you pass into the afterlife, I'm going to be like, he was a man who was a fan of marbling.
At my eulogy, Larry. By the way, I'm going to give you full permission.
He loved Indiana, and he loved a good steak that had proper marbling.
How about this, Larry? I'm going to grant you the rights to stream my funeral right now on your YouTube channel.
And we're coming to you live. Oh, we got a super chat. We got a super chat. People want to pay for the festivities. Al Felipe says Larry and Kev ate at the Golden Steer Steakhouse the next day. We went there with Big Mo Easy from our call-in show, and little did we know that Big Mo Easy was like a made man in Vegas, because he took us to the Golden Steer Steakhouse, and it was phenomenal.
Nice. I couldn't help but notice that my friend took care of you the night before, but then when you guys went out, you didn't even invite me to come along. Couldn't help but notice that.
Well, no, that was the night, if you remember, that was the night you actually had other plans.
I did have other plans. I went and hung out with Ike. We went to
because we could have invited you, but then of course we would have been inviting you to Big Mo Easy, who would have to have covered you. But Big Mo Easy's rolling so fat that he probably would cover you, just because he's like, Big Mo Easy runs like a shop where he makes your car like a low rider or fancy, or
okay.
He does all kinds of modifications on vehicles, and he's like the guy in Vegas for this.
He pimps the ride.
He's like pimp your ride guy, but he's in Vegas, so he's got a huge shop and he's making big bank. And Big Mo Easy got us into the Golden Steer and then covered it, and then on the sidewalk post dinner brought out party favors for the post game.
Speaking of that steakhouse,
Kev did not partake, by the way.
Just at the Rolling Stones just played Allegiant Stadium, and apparently Mick Jagger and his party went to the Golden Steer.
Really?
Steaks. Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
It's a famous steakhouse in Vegas. It's a big deal.
Yeah. No, seriously. I mean, it made me feel better about Big Mo Easy. When a guy says, "Hey, let's go out to dinner. It's on me," and you've never met him before, you're putting your life in your hands. You're taking it's a leap of faith. He could be an assassin. It could be an assassination attempt. The grassy knoll. Third.
Look, Kev, I don't know how this is going to go, but there'll be good marbling.
I'll tell you what was incredible at the Golden Steer that we had. We had a Caesar salad that they made at the table.
Right at the table.
Oh, my God. It was amazing. Kev looked at me and he's like, "Dad." I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "This is the best salad I've ever had in my life." I'm like, "Yeah."
There's a place. Yes. There's a place in Cabo called Elena's that claims to have invented the Caesar salad, and they do it right there, tableside preparation, where they're mashing the anchovy into anchovy paste, egg yolks, Parmesan, all the stuff you need for a good Caesar dressing, and they just do it right there. And you're like, okay, you're one of 9 different restaurants down here that claims to have invented the Caesar salad, but I'll believe it. Like, that's how good it was. That it was freaking
I'll
awesome.
say this. One of the greatest Caesar salads I've ever had in my entire life. I'm at spring training, and this is years ago. We're talking about late 90s. I think Charles Barkley was there at the restaurant. I think he was playing for the Phoenix Suns at the time. But we go down to spring training, and a buddy of mine's like, "Dude, you got to go to the Point Hilton Resort, Tipatillo Cliffs." I said, "Where is it?" He said, "Ride 7th Street out, and it goes right to the point, and it's like super high up. It's the Point Hilton Resort at the Tipatillo Cliffs. There's a restaurant there called A Different Point of View. Different has an E on the end, and it has a full wall of just all, floor to ceiling glass up top. And you're looking out on the point, which is very, very high up in Arizona, over the desert with
like
all the lights.
Like Camelback Mountain right there in Scottsdale.
Yeah, it's kind of like Phoenix. It's like Phoenix, but then you know it's I don't know, maybe North Phoenix. I'm not sure exactly. It's 7th Street, downtown Phoenix. It's not that far off.
Sorry, Sporticus. Marbling with Big Mo Easy, weekdays, 7 o'clock on FX.
On FX, yes. Marbling, Big Mo Easy. But seriously, different point of view at the Point Hilton Resort, Tipatillo Cliffs. They have an entire wall of glass, a 5-star restaurant, amazing Caesar salad. I had wild boar chops with the great Todd Herson at different point of view. And then we went out on the veranda, which is like this gigantic deck. And they have a cigar, like whatever, cigar bar, cigar, whatever, where you can pick your cigar and they'll go out there and they'll clip it for you and this and that. And you can sit there on the cliffs looking over the desert after having dinner, smoking a cigar, looking at the amazing view. I mean, it was spectacular. I would advise anybody who goes to spring training or the desert, go to the different point of view and have an amazing 5-star dinner, and then smoke a nice cigar, and maybe have a little brandy on the veranda.
I'll tell you right now, kids, bring your wallet. 5 stars, 5-star Michelin restaurants, 3-star Michelin. Bring your wallet, and don't smoke anything that doesn't get you high. That's just a little advice from Uncle Damon. That's the way I would go about it. Let's see. Final thing, Larry. I got to get going here in just a little bit. Leonard Floyd says one of the reasons he signed with the 49ers is because they play grown man football. Leonard Floyd is a football guy, which is why he wanted to be a Niner, because they play football the kind of guys like.
Well, Brandon Staley, I think Brandon Staley is probably the reason that Leonard Floyd is there. And it makes me wonder if Leonard Floyd is the reason that Brandon Staley is here. The Niners badly needed a edge rusher. They obviously care so much about their defensive line. I wouldn't put it beyond them to say to themselves, well, who can we get in free agency? Well, we got this guy, and it wasn't like there was 20 options. There's like 3 options. And, they got a nice little price on Leonard Floyd, and they got him to come to San Francisco, maybe largely because of the presence of Brandon Staley. So, it's like people sit there and go, well, I don't understand the addition of Brandon Staley. Maybe you would understand it better if you understood it under the prism of you got to get an edge rusher, and Leonard Floyd was one of the best out there, and you got a guy who's played for him a couple times who he's close with. Maybe the presence of Brandon Staley was meant as a way to attract Leonard Floyd.
How about this? It probably didn't hurt, right? I mean, it's also, this isn't like AAU basketball where, all right, we're going to give your kid a scholarship and we'll hire your dad to the coaching staff too. Like, the NFL really doesn't work like that. But again, you're trying to present an attractive offer. You want an attractive price point. You want an attractive situation. And if you can make situations more attractive by putting people in it that, players trust, it's a good way to get things done. We'll know what Brandon Staley's real value is to this team probably around the midpoint of the season, when we know a little bit more about how game day functionality works on that defense. And I'm sure, Kyle's going to be asked Brandon Staley's contributions in good and in bad times as the season rolls along. And we'll understand it a little bit more as it starts to happen. But in the meantime, I think Brandon Staley's on this team because Kyle takes care of his guys. And Brandon Staley's one of Kyle's guys. And I think smart NFL entities, which Brandon Staley might not have been a successful head coach with the Los Angeles Chargers, but he's not a dumb guy. He's a smart guy. I think he understands that everyone who works underneath Kyle Shanahan gets a first bite at the apple. So maybe I'll get my second bite at the head coaching apple by working under Kyle for a few years.
But he's never, you say he's his guy, but I don't think they've ever worked together, right?
Wasn't Staley somehow involved with either Atlanta or Washington staff when Kyle was a part of it?
No. Staley. I don't think they've worked together. which is, I mean, they could be buddies. I don't know, but I mean, in a lot of ways, people think they're similar, just because they're similar age and they've but I don't think that I think this is his first go around with Brandon Staley. So I don't know. I'm not really sure about that, but you could be right.
I thought they had a past. I might be wrong about that. I'm wrong.
I think Brandon Staley was a Charger, and before that he was a Ram, and I don't think he goes back to the Skins, but who knows? You could be right.
Are the Dallas Mavericks going to make the NBA Finals even pretend to be interesting with a win tonight, or is Boston going up 3-0 and then it's just a matter of time before it ends?
I think Dallas gets a win.
I hope so. Here's the thing: when you look at the postseasons in all sports, obviously Niners lost the Super Bowl, so no one watching here is going to pretend that was any fun. The World Series came and went, and good for Bruce Bochy, but it was an unremarkable World Series all the way around last year. The women's Final Four might have been the single most interesting postseason we've had in any sport, because the Stanley Cup playoffs are looking at a 2-0 Florida League going up to Edmonton. Maybe Edmonton can make this interesting. The men's NCAA tournament, beyond UConn's dominance, was the most forgettable, least memorable NCAA tournament of the last decade. And this NBA playoffs has seen one Game 7 between Denver and Minnesota. Every single other series has been literally unremarkable in every conceivable way possible. The postseasons that we've been getting lately have sucked. And the NBA's postseason that we're watching right now, if we don't get a good NBA Finals, this is one of the worst NBA postseasons of my life. All of these series have been mega yawns.
I mean, I'll go out and say it. I in some ways, I think the best series might have been Minnesota and
Denver.
Yeah,
it was the only 7-game series we got.
Yeah, that was probably that could have been. I would say that's the finals, other than the fact that the Celtics look like they're going to win it all.
And neither of those teams represents the West in the finals either. So that wasn't the finals.
Right. That wasn't the finals. But it felt like those were the two best teams at the time. But, Boston was 14 games better than everybody, 14 games better than Dallas this year, and was far and away the best team in the league. So this is kind of a little bit of a, for those who say the regular season doesn't mean anything, this is the pushback on that, because obviously Boston was the best in the regular season, and now they're proving to be the best in the playoffs too. So
what do we got
for Boston? My nephew's a big Celtics fan. My niece is a big Celtics fan. Good for the Celtics. Good for them.
What do we got in terms of starred chats, Larry? What do you got?
We got a couple here. We have we got this one from McFadden Ridge, West Virginia. He says, wrong CMC on the Madden cover. Colton McKivitz is the real CMC.
CMK. Get CMK blocking for CMC.
Okay. McFadden. Kevin Wood says, would you guys trade 2 first-rounders for Wirfs?
Look, the Tampa
you just traded 3 for Trey Lance.
Yeah, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are not trading Tristan Wirfs. They're just not going to.
Yeah, he's not going anywhere. But I would probably trade 2 for Wirfs.
Again, I put out a short, Larry, on YouTube about us discussing possibly trading Brandon Aiyuk, maybe JP Mason, or some, a little offensive package to Tampa Bay for Tristan Wirfs if they really are at an impasse with him. And I have been motherfucked so hard by every single Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan who has seen this video. Every single comment starts with, "Are you high?" And I'm just like, no, we're just thinking out loud. The short doesn't present how much of a thought exercise this really was. It looks like we're really talking about it like it might happen in the short, just the way that it's edited. So yeah, I'm not going down the Tristan Wirfs road anymore. That ain't happening.
Yeah, probably wise. Probably wise. I mean, he's just probably not going anywhere. That's all. I mean, there are very few trades in the NFL. And it seems like even fewer involving premier offensive linemen. I mean, and when you get premier offensive linemen, you just hold on to them. you don't move them. If you can avoid it, you don't move them. So there you go.
There it is.
There it is. Oh, and by the way, there's some rumor out here. I'm seeing the Warriors interested in signing Tobias Harris. Would you sign Tobias Harris if you were a Warrior?
Sure. Like just cost money, no trade, no. Just Tobias Harris is now a Golden State Warrior. Sure. The other interesting thing that I hear is maybe doing a deal for Jimmy Butler down in Miami. That would be something that's a door that I would knock on. I love Jimmy Buckets.
Only thing about that is Jimmy Buckets is 34 years old. And
here's the deal.
You're going to have to trade a lot to get him.
You're not getting anyone in their prime. You're just the Warriors.
But I mean, I don't want to trade. I don't want to trade. I've seen how much Jonathan Kuminga has improved from his age 19 season to his age 21 season. And there's no way I would trade him for a guy right now who's 35, especially since there's no assurances that you'd even be a top 5 seed in the West if you make that trade. And it's like, there's no way I'm moving off of Jonathan Kuminga's future with no assurances that I'm even going to be, have a home court advantage in the first round of the playoffs.
You think Klay Thompson's back?
No, I don't want him back. I don't want him back. Do you want him back? I want him out. I love Klay, but it's time to go.
I would want him back on a 2-year team friendly where he understands the new world that he's living in and he's accepting it. I don't want any resistant Klay. Klay, you might be going to the bench. You might be the 6th guy. You might not be closing. On the nights where your shot's dropping, we'll use you like you're Klay Thompson. On the nights where your shot isn't dropping, we're not going to pretend you're still Klay Thompson. And I really, if Klay Thompson is the mental hurdle that prevents Moody from getting starters minutes, then yeah, I guess I do want him gone because I'd rather see what Moody's got than what Klay's got left. But he also is one of the 2 guys on this team who can actually shoot a basketball. And the Warriors need shooters. I mean, the Warriors need to create some space. And you don't have to guard anyone but Steph Curry on this team if Klay Thompson is gone.
I'd be more interested in trying to draft Baylor Shireman, who I think is the next Klay Thompson, than try to overpay Klay Thompson, in the twilight of his career. Have you seen Shireman for Creighton shoot the rock? I mean, he is absolutely dead-eye shooter. He's a 6'7" 2-guard, kind of like Klay. He's not quite the athlete that Klay was coming out of Wazoo, but he's every bit the shooter. I mean, he's just absolute dead-eye, 6'7", 2-guard shooter. And they're saying he's going to go anywhere from the 20s to round 2. But, man, that's the guy that I'd try to get. Go get me the next Klay Thompson. Then I'll be excited.
Jerry West said, hold on to that guy. He was right about that. We started the show with it. I guess we'll end the show with it again. Rest in peace to Jerry West, who passes away today at the age of 86. I don't have a cause of death. I'm guessing the cause of death was he was 86. I mean, that's, people pass away in their late 80s, early 90s. That's what happens.
They say he passed away peacefully this morning at the age of 86. So his wife, Karen, was by his side. What an incredible basketball genius.
One of the great sports lives ever lived. Successful in every endeavor. As a player, collegiately, professionally, as an executive, his fingerprints are over good teams, if not great teams. So, when you're the silhouette for the entire league's logo, you've done something right. So, fare thee well, Jerry West. Always wore really well-tailored jackets as well. Jerry West's sport coat collection was impressive.
How about when they hired Pat Riley, they actually named Jerry West and Pat Riley co-head coaches. And then Jerry basically put an end to it at the presser where he's like, I'll be reporting to Pat. Pat is the coach. But Dr. Jerry Buss actually named Jerry West and Pat Riley co-head coaches at the presser, only to have Jerry West say, no, I'll be reporting to Pat Riley.
Well, and that's the thing. That's like some candy-ass owner decision. And then anyone who knows about sports or basketball to the level that Jerry West did knew that's not a recipe for success. That's a recipe for dissension. So we're not going to be doing that. He's the coach. I'll be.
Oh, that's amazing, really. And it really is an amazing life that he led. When you think about, they came from Minneapolis. Nobody knew, that they're the Lakers, the Los Angeles Lakers. They literally had like a van, like a truck that had a basket hooked up, and they would go to like mall parking lots and do like layup lines saying, "Hey, yeah, we're the Lakers. Come check us out." That's the beginning of basketball in Los Angeles, pro basketball at least. And then to see what it is now, with where pro basketball, I mean, the Lakers are just literally, if the ninth man on the Lakers is, there's some news about, it's like, huge story in LA. I mean, the Lakers are just what they've become in LA and what they were when he first got there. And he had such a hand in that. An amazing career. And then if you watch the, the retrospective, there was a lot of dysfunction in Jerry West's life, from his father to growing up in West Virginia amidst all that, overt racism. And West Virginia is a tough place. And Jerry West had a very tortured existence. I mean, the thing that struck me when I watched the Jerry West, retrospective on his life was just how he was never really happy.
Yeah.
I mean, he was never really satisfied. He was always kind of like tortured by do more. And then, of course, all those years of pushing that rock up the hill against the Celtics to see it all come rolling back down, except for 72, was an amazing amount of losing that he had to endure, at least at the highest level, at the finals.
Imagine what the modern reaction would be to an indisputable great player who is 1-8 in NBA finals. In the ring obsessed culture that we live in now, you'd have people arguing that Jerry West was a bum because no one knows what they're talking about in terms of sports, because they can't look at anything other than counting rings on fingers to determine who was good at this sport. So Jerry West in modern times on Twitter would be referred to as a mega loser by modern society, and he was anything but. So
same with Chamberlain, right? I mean, yeah, absolutely. They lost to Kuzi and Russell and Havlicek and all those Celtics teams. They were damn good, and they just never could get over the top against the Celtics. And then eventually they got over the top. But you got the feeling that that Jerry West was kind of a tortured soul from the standpoint of, he just was. It wasn't about what he had won. It was about all the times he had lost.
Well, and he had a massive
9 appearances in the finals.
We're lucky, Larry. I think that both of us had good relationships with our fathers, right? And if you have a bad relationship with your father, if you were raised by an abusive father, it's very much, I think, wired into men psychologically that you're constantly trying to please an entity that will never be pleased. And that creates the pursuit of, what else can I do? What else can I do? How could I ever get a pat on my head? How can I ever get an attaboy from a man who refused to give me any pats on my heads or the attaboys? And then when your dad dies, you're then chasing the ghost of that. And that's
Jerry's book was so powerful. I never read. He was the fifth of 6 children for Cecil Sue West, who was a housewife. His father was Howard Stewart West. His dad was a coal mine electrician, and his father physically abused him. And Jerry West slept. Think about this for a second. He slept with a loaded shotgun under his bed out of fear that he might have to kill his own father in self-defense because his father was that effed up. That is amazing.
Yeah. I remember my dad threw a shoe at me once. That's, that was it. So I can't even relate to that. I can't even imagine that. That's an awful existence. And to forge an unbelievably successful life out of that starting point says something about what an incredible athlete he really was and how focused he could get. And
he was the guy who got through to KD. Let's be honest. All this talk about how the Warriors landed KD and the Hampton trip and this and that, it was Jerry West. Jerry West. I think it was Jerry West. I think, supposedly Durant talked to Jerry West. I read that in a couple spots that, Jerry West consulted with him. Jerry West just had so much influence within the sport.
Well, Jerry West, everyone consulted with Jerry West. So you are an NBA superstar. Congratulations. You get to make 5 phone calls in your life. One of them was probably to Jerry West, right? I mean, there is a guy who's seen it all, been through it all, knows the league from a player standpoint, from an executive standpoint, from a Hall of Famer standpoint, from a winning standpoint, from a losing standpoint. He was the NBA's consigliere. Everybody called Jerry West for the good advice that you are going to get from him. And the NBA lost an epic figure, a true titan in the sports history, and he's going to be honored some way, somehow ahead of Game 3 tipping off tonight in Dallas. So
what a player, what a career. He also helped the Lakers improve from their 25-win season his rookie year to 36 wins, and they reached the 60. He was in the 60 draft. And he led the Lakers to the 61 NBA playoffs. They lost to the St. Louis Hawks in 7 games, but to get eliminated. But man, what a career! What a career! And then you think of Jerry West and Elgin Baylor. God, how cool would it have been to be in LA and watch those two guys do their thing together?
It was Jerry West and Goodrich. Yeah, I mean that was the real start.
But Elgin Baylor was like the Jordan of his era before when Jerry got there.
Gil Goodrich, UCLA guy. They did a lot of winning back then, right?
Yeah.
It's so weird. UCLA's in the Big Ten. It doesn't make any sense. There it is, Larry. I got to get running. I got a 10:30 that I got to be on the phone for. So great to have everyone stop on by. Again, like and subscribe on your way out. And thanks very much. We're going to have a wake up for you Friday. I believe, Larry, I'll be able to make it to a wake up on Monday, but Wednesday, Friday next week, I'm heading up to Tahoe. So we got a couple of wake ups before we're going to have a little break from wake ups, and then we will reassemble. And when we
I will be there. I will be there on Friday. There on Friday because we are doing the Kev graduating from Cal Poly this weekend, but I will be there Friday. Did you say you're not going to be there on Monday, or you are going to be there on Monday?
No, I got Friday for you. I got Monday for you, but Wednesday, Friday next week I think I'm off.
Okay. We'll see about Monday because I got to check the schedule, but definitely I'll be there Friday.
Check the schedule, Larry. In the meantime,
check the schedule. I'll talk to the big boss.
See if you can get Kevin's permission to attend his graduation. What if Kevin told you can't come to the graduation? You got a show to do, Dad.
It's funny, Lowry. I would never miss a graduation, but if I did, it would just be to have, surgery on an ACL is the way I would think it, and maybe go get maybe the Michis with Ralph.
There was an awful lot of talk about Caesar salad on today's show, and I've always been a very big fan of Caesar salad again. But then I turned to a life of vegetarianism, and I said, can we get around the anchovies? I don't think I want that anchovy paste in there anymore because they have lives and souls too. So anchovies swim carefully because they take themselves lightly.
I have one question for you, Tom, and I just need a quick answer, just a yes or no. Thumbs up or thumbs down on arugula?